Hey and welcome. Truthiverse is an audience-supported podcast and an audience-supported Substack as well. You can find me over there on Substack at official Brendan Murphy. And if you enjoy this work, please join the growing body of consciously evolving minds and voyage with us into forgotten and forbidden realms of knowledge. So do hit that like button, share with your fellow seekers, and if you hadn't yet, please do consider becoming a paid subscriber, whether it's over on my Substack or through buying me a coffee right here via the podcast. Also, feel free to check out my private evolutionary accelerator, Evolve Yourself, over at evolveyourself.live for the free masterclass. And of course, I do invite you to join me inside the members-only Truthiversity for all premium content, including part 2 of every podcast. See truthiversity.com for more information. Researching, writing, and podcasting is what I do full-time, so thanks in advance for your support. It does mean a lot to me. All right, welcome to the show, ladies and gents. This week, I am joined by the epic Yerasimos and Joel, the dynamic duo of Here for the Truth podcast and the Rise Above the Herd group coaching program. So, as I mentioned, they are the co-hosts of Here for the Truth podcast, and their goal is to provide their listeners and students, with the tools, resources, and inspiration to be the best and most authentic version of themselves, according to their highest values, based in the truth and grounded in reality, of course. So, with that said, guys, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's dive into things. I know we have a lot of things in common. We have a lot of common ground. We're all interested in a lot of the same stuff. And I think today, the idea for me getting you on the show was to, have a more of a personal development, self-awareness kind of slant to things, which, is pretty broad and opens up a lot of different avenues and pathways, I suppose. So, yes, some rich territory for us to dig into. Let me just consider where to start here as a starting point. So maybe if we could get a little bit of background from both you guys individually, starting with Yerasimos, tell us sort of your background, your training. How did you get into, how did you end up on a podcast with Joel Rafidi for a start? What led you there? What are your interests in, realms of knowledge?
Might need to do a 10-part series for this one, Joel. I see the smile coming in Joel's face because he knows when I share my story sometimes. I'll try to keep it short. I think I was always a curious person, a curious kid. I mean, that was my Gemini nature. But I first, I think, started my personal development process was when I started training to be an actor in my early to mid-20s, living in New York City. And my first teacher was my initial mentor, and he had psychologists on his staff, and I got really deep into, why was I the way I was? Like, why did my personality develop the way it did? And then how can I honor that process and then create an expanded consciousness to embrace more parts of me? So ultimately, I can use it telling stories, but as it supported me just as a human being. So, that initially led me to really diving into psychology and some spiritual subjects. And then I got really into nutrition and health. And then, to keep it a little short, I met a mentor of mine who was a ex-Navy SEAL and studied traditional Chinese medicine. And he took me under his wing. And I learned a lot of cool body work and healing modalities to support a person to, really do, I think, authentic shadow work, which has to include the body regard. It's also where I met my wife because she trained with him as well. This is like 9-10 years ago. And, that just continued to lead me down paths of self-education. I got into human design around that period as well, which is another system of self-knowledge that really allows you to get out of the compare and contrast game, own yourself, honor yourself, your unique ways of making decisions, your unique ways of operating the world, and move from that place. And then let's fast forward to the year 2020. My wife and I were interviewed on the Unslaved podcast, March 2020, by someone I think we all know very well. And, have a lot of respect for, the great Michael Desarian and David Whitehead as well. And yeah, we were interviewed March 2020 and May 2022 episodes on awakening somatic intelligence. My wife's also trained in a lot of different somatic modalities, trauma modalities. And Joel, I think the end of 2020, early 2021, he watched those episodes, was impacted by them. He sent me a message on Instagram, when like you don't follow someone and it shows up as a message request. And I checked this message out. I was like, who's this dude, Joel Rafidi? He messaged me. It was really cool. I saw what he was up to. He was heavily involved with the Sydney freedom community, speaking out on a lot of subjects. He was a conscious hip hop artist and just seemed like an all around, really genuine human. We had a few exchanges back and forth on Instagram direct message. And then we met on Zoom once just to connect. And then the next time we met on Zoom, a couple weeks later, we pressed record and we recorded our first episode of Here for the Truth, which was mid-May 2021. And we talked about what it means to walk an authentic path. So we shared a lot about our journeys and what does that mean? And that has led us to where we are today. That might be the shortest, most succinct opening of my story that I've shared.
Well done, man. That was very on point. So what, did Joel just kind of message you and go, hey, I want to start a podcast with you?
I mean, not at all. Actually, like I messaged him just to let him know the amount of value that I got from that episode. I don't know where did podcast come from? I think
no, we initially actually we were gonna do Instagram lives, like talking about Joel, because Joel's trained in Michael's mystery school as well, and so he was doing divination, tarot readings. So I think we were initially gonna do like a couple Instagram lives just to get to know each other and share a little bit about each other. But then we realized I had always wanted to do a podcast. I just knew inherently that I needed a partner. Like I needed someone, with complementary skills, maybe a little bit more tech savvy. And, we both realized we had a lot in common. Like we're both first generation, our parents were both immigrants to the places that we grew up. We had a lot of similar interests, and it just became like instantly like a brotherhood. Like I got so much love and respect for Joel. And, here we are over almost 3 years in now. And it's, we're just doing our thing. We're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, Joel, I'll rewind a bit, man. What's your background and how did you end up here in this place?
Yeah, man. It kind of feels like just like I've had like every single extremity thrown at me in my life, and it's just been a huge pendulum swinging, slowly coming back to middle and to balance, and hopefully discovering more nuance along the way. Like I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, man, one of the most repressive, dogmas and ideologies out there. My father was born in Jerusalem, Palestine. They were forced to leave, and so they came to Sydney, Australia. He met my mum here, so already a Palestinian Jehovah's Witness, very, rare combination from the get-go. And then from that point, like even financially, I had a very, very extreme experience growing up. Like my dad went on to become the largest independent concrete manufacturer in the Southern Hemisphere, as an import from Jerusalem, Palestine. So I experienced loads of amounts of wealth growing up. And then 2008 came around and suddenly he lost everything. So then again, I'm experiencing, it's always extremes with me, man. I don't know if it's the scorpionic nature, 29th degree Scorpio here. And then, so from having this ideology of, being a Jehovah's Witness, then in 2015, I kind of started Catholic and I went on a kind of a new age path, so I kind of was able to detach from all these dogmas, all these ideologies, but I definitely went down a path of, losing the self, losing the mind, losing groundedness. But it felt really, really amazing at the time, man. I experienced, a year-long period of absolute bliss. And I was blissing out, man, just doing my thing. Like everything felt amazing. The colors were so vibrant. It's like, wow, this is the purpose of life. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to think about anything. All I got to do is just be, become nobody. And I thought that was the answer for a long time until, I met my wife, Alyssa. We had our first child, Valley Grace. And then I realized, holy crap, there's something called responsibility knocking at my door here. What is that all about? And, along with this concept of responsibility comes this whole idea of shadow work. And, that shadow work process really hard, and this is really where I guess my affinity for the word truth was born, because I realized that all my power, all my potential, all my life force was locked up in my inauthentic behavior. It was locked up in the little, white lies that I tell people, or my little people-pleasing behaviors to try, continue to go along, to get along, and to have and to be supported and to be liked. But I made a decision, man, and just to have zero tolerance for the lie. I think that definitely came through Unslaved and through Michael Tessarian as well. But I realized that was the highest path without a shadow of a doubt. And then, so 2020, I was working in a family business, something that I was really never aligned with, concrete to me now podcasting. And, before that, in between, my initial passion was always on to be a conscious hip hop artist, man. That was my thing. That's what I went and did. I've had relative success in there, over 1 million streams online in terms of what I do. But it's a combination of always having had that urge to just follow the thing that really lights me up, but also, being like, how can I be supported in doing this? So 2020 came around, values, the difference in values really rose to the surface, particularly within family. I walked away from that business, and I studied astrology, and I studied numerology, and I studied tarot in Michael Tessarian's mystery school, Taroscopes. And it was around that time, like Yerasimos mentioned, I listened to his podcast as well, and I reached out to him, and I walked away and I was like, that's it, I'm starting a divination business. And that's what I did, you know. And then me and Yerasimos met, and things kind of shifted. And yeah, I guess that covers it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Can't hear you, brother.
Yeah, man, that's what covers it, I guess. Oh, Yerasimos.
I was muted for a second because I had opened the door to let my dog out. But yeah, I mean, I think our meeting is really like this culmination of so much that we've been through and that we've gone through, and the things that we've learned and the things that have impacted our lives, and that have kept us as grounded as we could, you know, and we want to give that gift back. I mean, that's my purpose, you know. I love truth. I love inner truth. I love seeking external truth. And I want people to know themselves on the freaking deepest levels, to know what lights them up, what excites them, what their gifts are, and how they can give that in the world. You know, so much is changing right now, you know, and how can we take more ownership over our lives, you know, adopt perhaps a more entrepreneurial spirit, and do the things that we really, really want to do.
Yeah.
And surround ourselves with people that share our values as well in beautiful community.
Yeah. The saddest thing in the world to me is wasted potential, you know, and seeing all the different ways in which the crowd, the herd, the conditions, the ideologies placed upon us is just there to limit that gift, limit that life force. You know, scarcity as well plays a big factor in that. And yeah, man, it's just our mission to really inspire people to know and love themselves on the deepest levels. But more importantly, take action according to who they are, right? And let life unfold according to that inner impulse that is uniquely yours.
Yeah, amen to that. And it sounds like, you know, both of you, you know, Joel, harking back to you talking about having no tolerance for the lie.
Yeah.
You really took that more in an internalized personal way from the way that you were describing it, right?
Yeah, definitely, man. Within and without, you know, just developing this philosophy of where am I deluding myself? You know, what am I really happy? Am I really content? Do I really enjoy doing this? Do I really like this person? You know, it's like if and maybe it comes back to the whole generator thing from a human design perspective as well, you know, but if things weren't, you know, a fuck yes, so to speak, it's like there's a question mark there for me. But yeah, like even externally, man, like you have to be vocal about what you're experiencing internally. Otherwise, externally, things are going to start closing in on you as well. Those inauthentic relationships fester. You know, that job that you hate, it stays there. It becomes stagnant, and years go by. You know, so to me, our voice is our machete through the jungle of life. So being able to have this voice box to vocalize that internal truth, we're then signaling to the entire universe and everything in existence our intentions as well, you know, and we're signaling to everyone else around us where we stand, and we actually give ourselves the chance to experience to have an authentic experience.
Yeah. And how are you going to attract a aligned community if people don't even know who you are, what you really value, what you really believe? And I think that was the case a lot over the last few years because, you know, my wife and I, we met a lot of people who were ostracized by their friends and their family group. And a lot of people, their friends and their family group didn't really know what they really believe. And so it's this process of like living your truth and speaking your truth. And then, you know, you realize that there are people out there that align with you and you can connect with them. But Joel hit the nail on the head. I mean, obviously, I'm a student and a teacher of human design, but even before I knew human design, I think for me in my personal life, I honored some inner compass. You know, I grew up with immigrant parents. My parents came from Greece with nothing and worked and built up something. And a lot of the first generation children that I grew up with, like they like stayed close to home. Their parents like bribed them to not go away to college, to take over the family business. And, you know, that was just something that I didn't want. You know, there was something in me, I don't know what that is, where I was like, fuck that. You know, and my choices led me to something else. And then that choice led me to something else. And it was this inner guidance system of I want to do things and be involved with things that excite me, that I'm passionate about. Oh, I want to pick up that book. Oh, you know what? I'm taking all my savings and I'm backpacking around the world for a year, which is exactly what I did in 2008. While so much of the world was struggling and there was the whole economic crisis, I thought I was tripping. I was like traveling around the world, living my best life, you know, backpacking and reading and reflecting. And you know, I think an individual has to break out of that comfort zone, whatever that is. It doesn't mean you have to take your savings and travel around the world. Maybe it's leaving a relationship that you know deep down is not right for you, or leaving a job, or moving somewhere and getting into a different environment. And it's up to the individual to answer that call. Sure, everyone's going to give their advice to you. Everyone's going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. But no one ultimately deep down knows who you are. No one is with you when you're in bed at night before you close your eyes. And those thoughts are bubbling up to the surface, knocking on the door of your consciousness to say, listen to me, integrate me. Same thing when you wake up. And so, you know, while we social beings and we love community and it's important. This hero's journey, it's an individual process that you have to go on, you have to embark on, you have to answer that call and deal with the discomfort that comes with potentially living alive for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I feel where both of you are coming from because, I've been through this, I've been on this path for the last 20 years as well. And, that personal development aspect has been really important. Not just the way I see things, like I look around and I go, okay, like this is really, really freaking important. And a lot of people are overlooking it. But in my own life, like to get me to where I am, it's been huge to do those uncomfortable examinations of the self and see, like Joel said, where am I telling the little white lies? Where am I lying to myself? What's not authentic? What's that false self that's been created that's running the show here? And then start shedding that shit and getting rid of that conditioning and all those old adaptive sort of behaviors that maybe got us through childhood, but aren't really serving us anymore. This whole thing's really crucial. And so you got together as the coaching program itself. Like, how did you guys decide you were going to do a joint coaching program? Because obviously it looks like a match made in heaven, right? You guys are so on the same page with so much stuff. How did that coalesce?
Joel, we were recording the podcast. We did about a year of audience building and podcast recording between, actually a bit less than a year, I think between May 2021, January 2022. Mm-hmm. And, we loved hanging out together. We loved working together. And I think it's just simply, okay, how do we make this our full-time gig? How do we set ourselves up to be fully devoted to spreading this message, to inspiring and to empowering individuals? And, value works two ways. You give value and you receive value. And I think that's something that many people are kind of stuck with in terms of a lot of the altruist programming that exists as well. That's why the gift that we decided to give was a group coaching program. For us, that was our way of monetizing and providing ourselves with value to be able to continue to do this work and also provide that to others. And you're right, we are completely on the same page, in many, many aspects. And so at the crux of what we offer at Rise Above the Herd is the call to heroism. This underlying mythos which pervades everything that we do, and it's always bubbling under the stream of consciousness constantly. The call is always there for individual to answer that call to heroism. And so we had a deep, stark look at our own journeys and at the things that we discovered were really, really held us back, and the primary obstacles and challenges that were required for us to overcome. And we're like, how do we really synthesize this knowledge into a program to put someone into, to really set them up with the strongest foundation possible to go and live the most authentic, empowered lives? And that's how Rise Above the Herd was born.
Yeah, well said. Anything to add to that, Yerasimos?
No, I hit the nail on the head. I mean, it really was taking a look at what we've been through and what we're both lit up to talk about, and what we think are really what's really important foundationally for an individual to integrate into their life. Part of it is all about like education. Obviously, you need some education to be able to see maybe where you were lied to, and to help you disconnect from disempowering philosophies, and then to take on programs and philosophies that are more empowering, that are going to allow you to make different decisions. I mean, because I'm a student of human design, that's a piece of the program too, where it's like, again, you're one of one. I think people have lost the connection to the sacredness and the miracle of who they are. Like what it's taken for the three of us to be here right now, together right now, like not just in our own lives, but all of our ancestors, all of them, all the decisions, all the pains, all the struggles, all the things that they had to go through for them to, continue their life. And then all the way down the line for our parents to do what they do and for us to be here. It's like, it's a fucking miracle that I'm alive and that I get to exist and I get to breathe and I get to see and I get to touch and I get to love and I get to feel pain and I get to experience the human condition. Like, I just think that's something that's lost. And part of it is because, the architects of control, and they want to keep you dumbed down and disconnected and feeling like there's no hope, and to show you that life isn't this special thing. It's like, okay, cool, do your things, seek some, get your pleasure fixes on, and then you end up like find work that you maybe kind of like, whatever, and then just keep doing that until you die one day, And it's like, no, I think there's so deeply spiritual and beautiful about the gift of life, and I think the more people can tune into that, I think that sets the stage for so much more. And like, I think it was Aristotle that said like self-knowledge is the foundation for all wisdom. And so why we put such a deep focus on self-knowledge is that I think it starts there. is really knowing yourself, honoring yourself, trusting yourself. Like, listen, we're all into like going down rabbit holes and conspiracies and alternative research, and I think that's extremely important. But does it really fucking matter what shape the planet is if you don't even know who the fuck you are and what your values are and what you want to do in the world? Like, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it does, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, Joel.
I mean, that was beautifully said, man. You know, like, yeah, it doesn't matter what shape the planet is. What's the shape of your character? What's the shape of your nature? Like, do you really think those passions or desires or impulses you have are random? Or maybe they're signals of something deeper. Maybe they're signaling a unique gift which you alone were here to give. And what a miracle. You're right. We can talk about the conspiracies all day, but the greatest conspiracy of all is the fact that I'm sitting here as an animated human being with life force flowing through my bones, having a conversation. You know, and in a world and in a society where the self has been sacrificed on the altar of these collectivist ethics, which would have you run as far as you can from selfhood. As me and Yerasimos are just here saying, honor thyself, know thyself, love thyself, miracles will come.
And speaking of that theme, you know, you both mentioned individualism and heroism. And how do you see those things tying together in the context of, you know, the world we're living in now?
Well, I don't think we have many role models that are showcasing heroic ways of living. I mean, at least that are being blasted out on the media, because that's not obviously the point of it. And individualism is just to ultimately honor yourself and your deepest wants and needs and desires, healthy desires, and not sacrificing yourself. You know, in a world that wants to homogenize you and make you like everyone else, truly being yourself, you know, and not just rebelling because it's the trendy thing to do, but truly knowing yourself, what your gifts are. I mean, that's the revolution, you know.
That in itself is the heroic act.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Pull on that thread, because you know, the heroism thing is something that, like, we're not out there, you know, slaying cyclopses and you know, battling giants or whatever. But this is really key. This is very important. I agree with you guys completely. Like, I'm on the same page here with the individualism and heroism, and the need to pull, like, to excavate those internal attributes and gifts and actually actualize them in this life, because we get one shot at being Joel, one shot at being Yerasimos, and one shot at being Brendy Boy. So we've got to make the most of it. Otherwise, what the hell are we doing here, right?
Yeah. Well, who's writing your story? You know, and to me, this is the difference between the authentic path and the inauthentic path. Because for the majority of us, our story has been homogenized. There have been paths pre-carved for us, and we're just thrown on the road of life, and there's a straight line, and we don't have to think about anything. We're going into a public school, we're going into a mainstream college or university, we're getting the you know, the one of 10 to 15 degrees available to us, then going into the same job as everyone else, and we're doing the thing that everyone else does. But you're not writing that story, right? Does your story have a proper arc to it? Are you really coming against, you know, the modern day dragon, the modern day obstacles and challenges of life, you know, which is really confronting your shadow, confronting your demons, confronting, you know, what was missed in childhood, and diving deep and reclaiming your power, then recognizing the wisdom that's there, then giving that gift, giving the boon, you know. And to me, like, when you're really on an authentic path, you know, and there's that level of, and you step into the role of hero in one's own life, like, life isn't boring. There's a deep fulfillment that comes from walking the authentic path. Like, every day is a new adventure. You know, it's not, you're not expecting the same mundane routine. Like, I think it was Henry David Thoreau who said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And like, that sums it all up perfectly. And that makes me sick to think about that quiet desperation, to think about mediocrity. Now, when I talk about heroism, I don't think that you have to go, you know, and be an Olympic champion or climb Mount Everest or, you know, go and rescue a princess. It's personal. It's rooted in personalism. You have your own unique story, your own unique trajectory, your own unique obstacles, which have been assigned to you for you to overcome in order to unlock the gifts, the attributes that you chose for this experience. And like, are you doing that?
Yeah. And again, at the same time, like, can you stand naked in front of the mirror and fully accept where you're at, be radically honest with yourself, all of it, you know, how you were raised, the trauma that you went through, the difficulties that you faced, and go, okay, now what? Like, I understand this happened to me. Maybe I was a victim, but will I remain a victim, and will I stay in a victimized mindset? Or am I going to take the reins of my life and go, this is what I need to do. This is the book I need to read. This is the course I have to take. This is the therapist I need to work with. This is the vision quest I need to go on, whatever that is, to really uncover these gifts and to heal and to feel. That's another thing, is like the fear of pain, of feeling pain and feeling legitimate suffering. You know, most human beings, we are hardwired to go after pleasure, to run away from pain. But it's like, maybe there are like pleasures we shouldn't be going after, and there are pains that we should be sitting with and have the capacity to sit with them. And this is where the whole nervous system piece comes into play. This is a lot of my education, and we have Sophie on board too in the program. It's like, can you build greater capacity within your nervous system to hold space for discomfort, for unfamiliar feelings, for, hey, you know, I'm going to assert my boundaries now. I'm going to speak my mind to like my mother, my father, my partner, some stranger I see. And can I do that? Do I have that capacity to do it in a conscious and a healthy way? And maybe in the beginning it's hard, but that's part of it. You push past your edge little by little, and you expand, and then you gain this ability to just be more in touch with more of who you are. We have a universe within us. You know, we have the capacity to experience so much. And most people, they live out of this rigidity within their psyches. And so personal development work on a holistic level is really expanding your consciousness, you know, and it includes the soma, you know.
Amen to that, brother. So overlooked, you know, we have a culture going back to, you know, Freud and, you know, the psychoanalysts of just fixating on the mind and, you know, forgetting about the body. And then we have these geniuses like Reich come along and realize, oh, this is actually really, really important. And we can profoundly, you know, heal and transform people if we actually work with the body. And I like what you said there. You reminded me of something Peter Levine, you know, writes about in his work, where instead of, you know, trying to eliminate the pain or avoid it, build a bigger container for it. So you can adapt, you can grow, and then you know, that's powerfully moving forward, rather than you know, having to fall into the trap of avoidance or, you know, spiritual bypass tendencies or what have you, which I know you guys are not into at all.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I want to highlight there too is that if you're looking at yourself an individual and you have these habitual behaviors that you turn to, that a part of you knows, I shouldn't be doing that. You know, I probably shouldn't be like, you know, scrolling, looking for more porn, or, you know, smoking the weed 24/7 or drinking alcohol 24/7. It's like, can you, before you react to that stimuli, you know, whatever that is, you know, there's this moment where you're just living and then all of a sudden you're doing the habitual activity, but can you create a little bit of space and feel that discomfort, feel that angst, feel that whatever's there before you turn to the thing to self-medicate or to self-soothe? And I'm not sitting here to saying like, it's like you shouldn't do these things. I mean, we have the ways that we have of regulating within ourselves, you know. A lot of times it's just you know, it's just happening automatically. But can we create more consciousness around it? Can we sit with it? And can we create that container like you talked about, like I mentioned, with the capacity? And this is a step-by-step process. And so it's not just like my initial foray into personal development work was very psychological, was very cerebral, you know, reading a few spiritual books, a bunch of psychology texts. And I think the knowledge is important to be able to frame what's happening in the body, you know, or what's going on from a feeling standpoint. So I think you can tackle it from multiple angles, but it has to be holistic. When I started getting into deep body work, you know, shit that was just so intense, and like the work I do, you're getting walked on while doing deep breath work, and emotions are coming up to the surface. I mean, it's heavy. Like that, like it changed everything for me. It changed everything for me in a cellular level. Like when you talk about, like, I used to say this to people when going through this transformational process, it's like, it almost feels like you're like Neo in the Matrix, you know, where those bullets are coming at you and you're just dodging those bullets. And so think about life. You have all these stimuli, you have all these things that are coming at you, and you just create a little bit of space. And it's like that great Viktor Frankl quote, like, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and within that space lies our ability to choose, and within that choice lies our freedom, something like that. So if we can create some space between this conditioned behavior that we have based on trauma, based on everything else, and create a little space to consider a new way of being, a new way of emoting, a new way of acting, that is game changing. Because I mean, what are we to some degree but an amalgamation of every single choice that we've made up until this point? So if we have a deeper understanding on how to react, how to respond, how to be with ourselves, how to interact with our environment, it's game changing, it's life changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joel, if you want to jump in, absolutely do, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely echo everything that Yerasimos said, and the way that I've kind of come to frame, you know, nervous system work and, you know, this bioenergetic work, which is so important, is like, I just consider it self-esteem for the body. You know, you're building competence within your own biology to navigate life and to make better, more conscious, more aware choices. And ultimately, like, your destiny is the sum of your choices. So why wouldn't you want to become as competent as possible within and without? And that was the initial draw between Yerasimos and I. He was talking about somatic intelligence on that Unslaved episode in 2020, and he was discussing shadow work from this perspective, which I've never heard before. In terms of the body, and then for us to come together and merge our worlds and create a program which brings the psychological and the biological, and something that's truly holistic is, to me, it's very rare.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that, I have you guys on, and one of the reasons I'm more than happy to recommend your coaching to people is because of that holism that you're operating inside that paradigm. And, every now and then someone asks me if I do coaching, and I'm like, no, and I don't particularly want to, but now that I know you guys do what you do, I can just refer them over to you, and I know you'll take care of it.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, no,
man, we love this shit, bro. Like, there's no way to put it. Then we love this shit, man. We love getting someone in our container, and just watching them come out the other side and really, really rise, really have multiple huge aha moments. Watching their worlds shatter and completely collapse, then be rebuilt again. That's as a generator again. That excites me.
I don't know, as a generator, you can do it 24/7, 7 days a week, brother.
Yeah, if we're lit up by it,
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is many generators in this world are not responding from an authentic place, and they're doing things they don't really want to be doing, and so they're fucking exhausted. They're just exhausted as well. So I think that's the key. That's the key for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say something now. I forgot what it was. Rewind, generators, coaching. It's gone now. Shit.
Well, I mean, human design is a component of the program as well when it comes to self-knowledge, so we're bridging human design as well as everything else. And I mean, my first foray into human design was through Yerasimos. Like, I dealt with different divination practices before that. Like I mentioned, Michael's teroscopic system, knowing myself through that system was a huge rite of passage for me. And just every single time you get a divinatory reading, or you dive into one of these systems to get information back about yourself, and you realize that actually on some level I've already known this stuff about myself. I've already known that this is what's inspired me, that this is what I'm passionate about, that this is what some of my limitations might be. And then you realize I really was born for a reason. I really was born with a unique set of attributes, a unique path, unique things for me to really cultivate within my life. And again, why would I spend a second doing anything other than being who I was born to be? And in that statement lies our ethos from day one, become who you were born to be. And ultimately, that's also what's at the crux of Rise Above the Herd. And that's what we're going to see for every single person, is to tap into your unique gifts as an individual, really understand how you're designed to respond, and how to be in the world, and just bring more ease into your life as well through acting in accordance with your unique makeup.
Yeah, well said. And there's such a huge need for it as well. We, as you guys are well aware, we're born into a system that molds us according to certain pre-defined pathways. And the vast majority of people end up going down those pathways, indefinitely. Most people are on their deathbed still just having blindly sort of followed along. So the need for the kind of work you guys are doing to help people break out of that patterning is huge. So it's invaluable just for that alone. And coming back to some of what you were saying a second ago, Joel, as far as people's worlds, breaking down the worlds and the collapse and then the rebuilding sort of stuff. I imagine, you guys must have a lot of people come to you at a point where they're heavily armored, but at the point where they're ready to actually start doing something with that armoring and breaking it down from an intentional place.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I just think I have the deepest respect for someone who recognizes that something's off in their life and answers the call, and that really invests in themselves. We've all done it. We've all invested in teachers and programs and things like that. And a lot of those investments have taken our lives to the next level. It's because we're not satisfied with the internal status quo anymore. It's when we're able to realize that the pain, the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing, then that's when transformation occurs. This is why I'm another huge advocate of being mindful of how you're self-medicating. Because if you're constantly pushing everything down, which is going to obviously feed the armoring. And if you're pushing it down, you can't feel the truth of your reality.
Yeah.
If you're always turning to that substance or whatever that is, you don't have that stillness or that beingness for that discomfort and the fear and the tears and all this shit to come up to the surface. Because then that's what's going to propel you. Pain is one of the greatest motivators for change. You just have to be willing to face it and to feel it. And that's how it's been in my life. There have been points in my life where I was like, fuck this shit, I don't want to do this anymore, and I've been fortunate that I've been sober from all substances for over 10 years, because I made a choice that I wanted to live with more clarity. I wanted to really understand what's happening moment to moment, as real as it is. It's not always easy. I mean, I have my things I do to self-soothe. I'm probably on my phone a little bit too much, which I talk about all the time. I'm not sitting here saying I'm perfect, but it's been a journey, it's a challenge. And I think when people realize they want to connect to themselves more and connect to their feelings more, that's a big piece, and people come to us for that. And it's amazing to see that. It's amazing to see someone recognize, like, oh my God, I've been like relying on weed to just get through life. And then, oh, I take that away. Oh, it's fucking scary. But then there's this rediscovery of yourself. You're like, well, I'm getting to know myself. I'm getting to like meet these different parts of me. And it's why, one of my favorite poems of all time is the Rumi poem, The Guest House, which is how can we treat all these different parts of us as guests in our home, because they can give us a gift that is beyond measure, and how can we embrace them, as opposed to be like, oh no, I'm only going to experience these types of feelings, but I don't experience that. And so can we become more whole and integrated? People give lip service to that all the time. Oh, wholeness, integration. But what does it really mean? It really means building that capacity within yourself, peeling away the armoring, allowing what is to be. Like, can tears come down your eyes without you having to apologize for having tears in your eyes, or needing to get a tissue right away and wipe the tears away and shying away? Like, again, if you do that, I'm not saying that's bad. But I'm saying that, can you be there? Can you be open and raw and hold it? Can you feel the anger bubble up within you and allow it to just this life force energy? So many people repress their anger. They don't have conscious relationship to their anger. Can you feel that and then not act on it in an unhealthy way where you're just punching people in the face and you're telling people off, but actually allow that energy to be with you, because it is there. Repression will never solve anything in the long run. Maybe in the short term, you might have to do a few things here and there, but ultimately the repression is what leads to the armoring, which leads to the disconnection, which leads to you just not being the person that will give you the most satisfaction and fulfillment in your life.
Right. Yeah. Which leads to an extremely toxic crockpot of guilt, obligation, and resentment, thinking you're doing good because you're pleasing everyone else, but ultimately, like, all these relationships, man, what's bubbling under them is extremely toxic within family dynamics, because people really aren't honoring who they are on the deepest levels, and they're not even allowed to express what they're truly feeling or experiencing in the moment. Most people out there are, they're half people, man. There's so much repression, so much blockages, so much untapped and unlived life force and potential. And this isn't, I don't believe this is work for masses. It's not. This is work for individuals. This is work for the black sheep, man. It's one person within a system waking up and realizing, holy shit, something needs to shift. Then that person becomes a cog in the wheel, which breaks the whole fucking thing. Then everyone starts pointing at them, blaming them. Oh, you're making us face all that stuff. None of this should be a problem. Just shut your mouth. Just stop walking that path. And it's painful. It's scary. But it's the right thing to do, like, ultimately.
Yeah, right. And I like you both emphasize fulfillment, like personal fulfillment. Like, you're not talking about being happy or, getting that like little dopamine hit, that we are so addicted to now. Actual fulfillment. Let's just maybe get a few more comments around this, because I think that's really key. And that to me is, like, you're talking about going down the hero's journey, the entrepreneurial path, and all these things are kind of the same. And they, just because we get an enormous amount of, say, satisfaction or fulfillment by walking our authentic path, doesn't mean that we're happy, la-di-da, everything's rainbows and fucking, popcorn and, like fairy floss and stuff. Like, it's not all happy all the time. But the point is that there's a level of actualization and satisfaction and fulfillment that can't be gotten by living out the false self, right?
It's a depth that you just experience. Like, there are probably times in my life when I was living in my people pleaser state and living in a one season world and happy, and everyone loved having Yerasimos around because he was just the life of the party and he was happy and he took care of our needs. And like, there were times where I was probably happier, in a general way. But like, the more I've done work, there's a richness to life. There's a depth. I can experience some of the lows, or like when I'm feeling a little down, and be okay with that. And then it's like I could experience the highs and the lows, and it adds a whole nother dimension to life. And I feel more equipped to handle life, so sure, that makes me content and happy also, but it's a different kind of sensation and feeling within your body. It's like hard to even explain it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, like, this gives rise to this whole concept of self-esteem, as well, which I guess Nathaniel Branden defines as the competence to deal with the basic challenges of life. And, that really can't come unless we choose to develop a truthful and friendly relationship with the facts of reality. So choosing to be as conscious as possible as to the facts means being able to move through that pain and, again, widen our capacity and deepen our ability to experience all the dynamic nuances of life. Like, it's like you're choosing to be conscious and to experience the entire spectrum of color and sound available to you, instead of merely fragments that, suit this idea in your head of what you think life should be like. And life is rich by having access and having a conscious relationship with anger, with frustration, with some of our primal instincts, which we've been taught to repress for so long. And also, that's where your power lies, right? That's when you gain access to that, that's the thing that's going to really motivate you to create the life that you truly do desire. That's the impulse to act. That's the impulse to grow. That's the impulse to create. It's tied up in that anger, right? That's what the warrior relies upon. And to me, the modern day warrior is the entrepreneur in many ways. He's the one that's choosing to use that life force impulse to create, to walk his own way, to carve his own path. And so then again, heroism, you need a vocation. What is your vocation? What is the container that you're going to pour that creativity, that love, that life force into? What's the vessel that you're going to use to move through this world? It needs to be contained on some level. So know that, figure out what that is, and then act. But in order to act, you need to develop the capacity, you need to develop self-esteem.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And, I think we mentioned it in passing a second ago, but spirituality at this point, you guys obviously have, I would infer, a very kind of grounded take on spirituality. What do you think of the deficits that you see in the, like, say, spiritual community out there? What gets your attention and as something that's, out of alignment or false, not authentic?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one deficit is this like need to live in this one season world, to put the focus on love and light and unity, and you need to love and you need to have peace and harmony at all costs, no matter what. And it's just like, nah, we're more complex than that. This is why I also love. We did an episode with Laura Lee Scaife on the guiding myth of our time, Lord of the Rings. And so it's just like what powerful imagery. And it's like I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be love and light with Sauron and Saruman. It's just not gonna work. So where do you find that deep within you? And so I think there's a shallowness a lot. I think there's a disengagement from the wisdom of the body and the intelligence of the body as well, from a deeply emotional place. I think that's missing, not in all traditions, but I think in a lot of the more pop spirituality. I also think in a lot of spiritual, and I put that in quote, communities, there's this overemphasis on all I have to do is do one ayahuasca ceremony and now I'm a shaman and now I have it all figured out. I don't discount the benefits of plant medicine. I've had experiences myself. I just think that a more authentic path isn't going to happen because you took one course or you went to the Amazon once. Mm-hmm. It's a lifelong journey of discovering aspects of yourself that you need to develop or things that you've repressed. It has to be much more grounded and much more holistic than just, wearing the right clothes, having the right jewelry on, and saying the right catchphrases.
Yeah, Joel.
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, just in my own personal experience through my own new age journey, the things that stand out to me is the emphasis on stilling the mind. I think we're placed at a contradictory relationship with our own mind through many of these new age and Eastern philosophies. We believe that we're not our thoughts, and we believe that detachment from our thoughts is the ideal state of being. But there's no chance of you actually being embodied and grounded in reality in that place. For me, mindfulness is a great tool, but it's not a state of being. So yeah, man. I mean, something's being repressed by going down a new age path, obviously. And to me, the emphasis does need to be on wholeness. It leads to individuals, like Yerasimos said, living in a one season world. And I also think it neuters people. I think people lose the impulse to act. Because they think that they can be desirelessness. They could be desireless, where ultimately you can't. You have desires. You need to live in the world. They think that sitting on a mountain in the Ganges with flies flying all around you, some kind of enlightened state. It's not. You're a human being. You're meant to live. You're meant to act. You're meant to do. You're meant to create. You're meant to have relationships. You're meant to have all these different nuanced experiences. So I think it plants a very deep nefarious seed that places individuals ultimately in a contradictory relationship to how their natural state of being is meant to operate.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to highlight on that too. I think to piggyback on what I said and what Joel's saying is that I think also in a lot of these communities, anger is just not even paid attention to. There's like high repression of anger. And so you see it in the affectations of people. Like I almost right away can sense someone is just like operating from the spiritual self. And I don't mean that in like this positive way. It's like, I will, yes, my brother. Yes, brother Brendan, I honor you and we are one and I love you no matter what and blah, blah, blah. It's like this voice that like highlights this, like, this is what it means to be spiritual. All that said too, I don't want to discount like some more cosmic or like we are each representations of this whole, the ocean, like we're drops of the ocean. I get all that, but in my day-to-day life, like I need to know who I am. I need to understand my mind, my psyche. I need to have a relationship, a conscious relationship with my feelings and know what I want, know what I desire, know how to take action. And I could also know, hey, I'm this piece of the whole, you know. It's like I think you can have both.
Yeah, and I need to be able to assert my boundaries, you know. Yeah. And I need to realize that, you know, not everyone really has the best intentions for me. And, you know, it's spiritual collectivism. It's spiritual communism to me in many ways. And by going down that path, we leave ourselves open to a myriad of forces to really just have their way with us, you know. But I think we need to stake our flag in the ground a little bit more.
Yeah, that, you know, I think we're in a situation here on Earth where we get maybe what might be a fairly unique opportunity because we know that we are all drops in the ocean. We are all connected, and that is true. But we are evolving through this mode of individuality that may be potentially very unique in the grand scheme of things. And so that's part of the game. That's what I think we have to respect that and nurture it because of the uniqueness of it. And it's obvious that we're not all the same. It's so obvious that we are all built very differently. I mean, even when you go into a system like human design and you then have the convenience of being able to categorize people, even within a category, everybody's still an absolutely unique individual expression of that category within the broader whole. I mean, you know, this is just to me how I sort of see things. I think that the individualist game is the solution to the collectivist game. And what you guys have highlighted about the sort of pseudo spirituality is in many ways a reflection of the sort of hardcore kind of like fundamentalist, you know, more traditional, you know, like fundamentalist Christianity, where you give your mind away to this prefabricated idea. Someone has written a script for you for how to live, how to think, what to say if somebody says this to you, what to do, and all your accountability, your responsibility, your adaptability, your unique, authentic individualism goes out the friggin' door.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man.
That was well said, man. We should have asked you the question.
Yeah. You know, we had G. Edward Griffin on the podcast like last year, and we got into talking about collectivism, and he was saying, he's like, listen, I'm all about the greater good for the greater number, like of that. But what is the right strategy to go about doing that? And the right strategy is to honor individual rights, to honor the individual, and even who people who believe in like these expanded I don't know if it's spiral dynamics or if it's like moving from new stages of consciousness. People want to say, well, we're moving from the I to the we, but you don't discount what came before. You build on that. So it's not like there's no I now, we're at the we. It's like, no, the I is the foundation. So if every I honors their I and who they are and their gifts and do things according to their highest values, that ultimately supports the we on the highest level. And I think that's where people get confused because they get hijacked by these ideologies and not realizing where things need to be on a foundational level.
Completely. That's exactly how it has to work. And when we get also part of that dynamic is that when you end up with the we, the manufactured we tends to forget the individuals that comprise it. And that's where we end up with this sort of boot on the face collectivism of whatever form it might take, right?
100%.
Yeah. And ultimately, even like within the decision-making process of the we, it's ultimately influenced by the individual within the we that holds the most influence.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like there actually is like a group ideology, like or a group value that everyone agrees on is the highest value. Like it's not possible. Someone's deciding, someone's still dictating. And because we're under this spell of collectivism, we're so easily able to be like, oh yeah, okay, that must be the right thing to do because I need safety and survival within the crowd. So I'm not going to question it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's this great quote by Ayn Rand where she says the smallest minority on earth is the individual. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities. So it's like you have all these people that get like co-opted by certain ideals and want to defend every cause out there and want to defend every minority group. And really the smallest minority is the individual. So how do you not honor individual rights?
Right, exactly. And, we can see with like the left today, the way that the left's gone, people who are constantly trying to demonstrate how much they care about the oppressed minorities. And at the same time, those are the first people to jump on the bandwagon of, massive medical tyranny, lockdowns, just the most appalling human behavior. And, institutional behavior, I should say. But yes, that's a little bit of a, I won't get on that soapbox.
No, but I share that soapbox, man. I'll jump on that soapbox next to you any day, man. I mean, I agree with you 100%. So it's pretty funny in that regards.
Ultimately, it's a symptom of the same underlying philosophy of of collectivism, which is at the root of tyranny.
Yes, exactly. When the individual forgoes his individual responsibility, his individual identity, then you're taking the first steps into that horrendous end result. So, as far as like when you're say working with people in your group coaching, I'm kind of curious because I've seen some pretty awesome reviews and testimonials from your people who've gone through the process with you. What do you think in terms of your goals for people and the way you're trying to support people? What's the best kind of testimonial or feedback that you get from somebody? Like, what are the changes that you've seen specifically that make you the most gratified, say?
I think again, if you've listened to them or read them, I think it's different. But when I see someone that's excited about taking more personal responsibility over their life, and feeling more alive and feeling more connected to who they are and feeling like, wow, you know what, I can assert my boundaries. I can, speak my truth in the world. I can, have a deeper connection to like what I really truly want to do. And even if they don't exactly know, like, oh, 8 weeks are up, I don't know my exact purpose in life, the seeds have been planted for a person to continue on that journey. I mean, we've had amazing like testimonials even like a year after, where it's like everything started during these 8 weeks. And then, there's this new growth and this new just evolution that happens. And so I think that's a big piece. I mean, there's more if Joel wants to add into it, feel free to.
I mean, we've had multiple people throughout the rounds like walk away from their jobs like mid-course, and seeing people like really take that leap and make that decision and be like, all right, I'm getting started now. I'm diving into the unknown. I'm gonna, deal with the scarcity that comes up. I'm gonna, let that be a fire really under my belly to go and act and to do what needs to be done to live a more fulfilling life. To me, again, that's heroism. I'm not saying everyone that does our course needs to walk away from their job and radically change their life. But for the people where they know they've been just drowning in this inauthenticity for too long, timeline of their life is ticking away, and it's like, no, I'm making a choice now. And then seeing those people even now, like Yerasimos said, like 6 months, year down the road, still doing their thing. Now they're digital creators. They're given their gift. They're a lot more fluid, a lot more dynamic. And that really is the entire life trajectory shift that takes place. And that's what I love to see.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. You were going to say something, Yerasimos?
Yeah, but it left my mind because then I got so into what Joel was saying, and I was like, wait, what did I want to add to that? It's just cool, man. It's really cool where people have aha moment after aha moment, where they see that these programs, the way we've been taught to act against ourselves, when that light bulb goes off and it lands and they're like, holy fuck. And it's so subtle, especially some of the spiritual stuff, especially the stuff around collectivism and altruism and like, but I'm a good person. Well, fuck, let's not even get into that. I mean, our one module is like a complete upheaval on just the view of money. I mean, we call it money, the root of all good, not the root of all of evil. And
I'm triggered.
Yeah. And I mean, you can talk more about that, Joel, but it's like, I think people go, you know what, fuck that shit. I'm going to own who I am, own my life. I'm going to create value in this world, and I'm going to exchange it for value. So I think overall, it's so cool to see people just I talked back to earlier about this like miracle of life, of existence. Like I have blood coursing through my veins. And so I think people build a greater awareness of that blood coursing through their veins, and they're like, this is so awesome, I'm a human being. And also the self-esteem piece is like a big crux of the program. So this isn't like, oh, like, wow, like only people who aren't successful in life. There are a lot of successful people who make a lot of money who have low self-esteem. So I think once they understand self-esteem on this nuanced level and how it impacts their relationships, how it impacts how they deal with their day-to-day, how they feel about themselves, the decisions they make, that's life-changing. Because you know what? Once you learn it and once you feel it in your bones, you have it.
Yeah.
You have it, and then you can keep building on it.
So what's like, give us an example. Like, so when you have that more awareness of self-esteem, how does that maybe, as an example, show up in your day-to-day? What are you going to do differently?
Saying no to someone.
Yes.
Just the simple act of saying no. You will not speak to me this way, father. You will not speak to me this way, mother, partner, whatever, like just that. I mean, I think N and O are the two most important letters in the English language that I think people have forgotten. Everyone just wants to be liked. Everyone doesn't want to like stir the pot. And it's like, you say no, and not even having to like explain yourself, just to be able to say no. I don't need to, oh, well, I want to, but I can't. I'm sorry that I didn't really like, no, I'm unavailable. No, that does not work for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's one of the day-to-days, how it impacts people's lives. And then just imagine like altering the trajectory of a relationship with someone that you've had for decades, that has walked all over you, if you have that kind of relationship with a parental figure, and then, to be able to speak that, like, what does that do to you? It gets you, I mean, you're like, oh man, I said that, what else can I accomplish?
Again, heroism, man. That's saying no to heroic act. This is modern day heroism we're talking about.
It is. It is. This is like what it really looks like, away from all the swords and shields and capes. This is what it actually is.
Yeah. And like, what does that do to you when you do something that you haven't done before, you do it, and then you didn't die from it? Because how many voices, you can't say that, you can't do that, oh my God. And then you do the thing, and not only have you not died, but you fucking feel good. You're like, holy shit, this is amazing. I'm just going to give a little brief example from my life. Like, my wife and I, we moved somewhere, and, we have more land, and I've been getting into like permaculture and irrigation, and it's all new to me. And like, before we left town, there was an irrigation zone that broke off. Like the wire got eaten by a rodent, that feeds the computer to turn on all the water. And I'm like, oh, fuck, should I call someone to fix it? Like, would have been like $400 to call someone. I hit up my friend who works, he has an irrigation company, and he's like, or landscaping company. He's like, man, dude, you can go to the store, you could buy this shit for $20, and then it'll take you 15 minutes to do it. And like, I was like, ugh. And dude, I went to the store, I got the thing, I went back, I saw how the one was broken, ripped off, and then I did it myself. Dude, I felt like King Kong. Like, that was a self-esteem boosting act for me personally. Yeah. Like, I just feel like I can handle anything that goes on outside now, from that thing. So
come at me, rodents, come at me.
I mean, it's a funny example, but it's like, it relates to how we, navigate challenges in our lives. And then when we do something differently and we conquer something as the hero, I mean, even in that moment, it felt heroic. That's what it felt like. I know it's silly. And so like, that's how like, we get these like these changes that build on one another, with this cumulative impact down the road. We keep doing this, and in 2 years we have no idea where our lives are going to be.
Yeah, well said. Joel, it looked like you were going to jump in there for a sec.
Nothing in particular, but I mean, no one's coming to save you, right? And we've been just so programmed to receive according to our need, as opposed to according to our ability. And when like you really take deep personal responsibility, and you realize that, hey, I was wrong. One day, miracle's not just going to come knock me on the head, and all my dreams are going to be actualized with no effort on my part. And you realize that no one's coming to save you. And bit by bit, you decide to stand the fuck up, right? And take responsibility for your life, for your dreams, for the actualization of those inner yearnings within you. And then you actually achieve something. You make something happen. You create something in the world, and you get a result because of it. And you get the sense of your own ability, of your own power, and it's like, that can be scaled ad infinitum. It's like, why can't you do it? Why can't, like, I just feel like so many people are living with like this unlived realization within them. Like, they've always had these yearnings, these deep childhood desires, these dreams, these things that they wanted to do, but they've psychologically given up. They've succumbed to some kind of acknowledgement that their life is not going to go that way. And, self-esteem is really just beckoning you to question that, to be like, hang on a second, there is something deep within you which is yearning to unfold its own unique blueprint, and you have the choice to act right now. And, it doesn't mean that the moment that you act, this is all going to happen overnight, but it happens quicker than you think the moment that you step on the road. And the moment that you truly decide to take this level of responsibility for your life, and the feeling of competence and power that comes with the realization that, hey, I am built for life, is second to none.
That's powerful, man. That's it. Because I think a lot of people don't feel that. They don't have a visceral sense that they even belong on the planet, right?
No, bro. You're right. They don't feel like they belong. They feel like they're out of place. They feel like they're in, some kind of foreign environment through them. And yeah, things aren't ideal. There are intense systems of control which, want to withdraw our power from us. But that's part of reality. That's part of the game right now. So again, self-esteem beckons me to face the facts. I acknowledge that there's this parasite that exists right now as well. But to me, that's a call to further empowerment. That's a call for me to dig deeper. That's, maybe I chose this particular experience, so I can actually learn to access more of that, more than I ever have before. And it's like, I'm here to win, man. Like, sorry.
I love it. I'm here to win. Yeah, Yerasimos.
Yeah, man, same thing happened. I get all lit up by what Joel says, and I forget the thing that's in my mind. But what I wanted to say, actually, I remember, is that, like, listen, I get it. Some people come to this world, their childhood isn't as traumatizing. Maybe they have more privileges. Maybe they have a step up, But, like, at the same time, the more challenging that your life has been, it's more opportunity on the flip side to be even more heroic. You can be like the most heroic because you've dealt with the most hardship, the most trauma, and like no one gave you a dime or nothing, and to rise up from that and to tell that story. I mean, those are the stories that I think a lot of us, when we read books or biopics or we hear things, we go, oh my God, man, this person came from nothing and they built this empire, they created success and created generational wealth for their family, like that's pretty cool on that level. So I think, like, it comes down to self-responsibility, and it's like you staying in a victim mindset and blaming other people and pointing your finger out in the world like, oh, well, that person has this and that person has that. You're just wasting time and energy towards being a fucking hero. Like, take that energy and go and do the things that you know that you need to do to have the life that you want to have. It's not going to be fucking easy.
Yeah.
There's some things in my life that have come easier than other people, and there's some things in my life that have been much fucking harder than other people. I'm gonna sit there and start freaking tallying an Excel sheet and figuring out, and like, no.
Bro, like, when I walked away from that family business in 2020, it's like the mountain in front of me seemed freaking impossible. Like, I had to supplement 100,000 Australian dollar income off on my own. And as I was walking out, the last thing that my dad said to me is, like, he points his finger at me. He goes, "You'll never make money without me."
Wow, thanks, Dad.
Right? But, like, that was the dragon, man. That was the motive. That was the motivation. That was the fire, And it's like, here we are now, doing our thing, giving our gift, self-reliance. But if I really think back to that time, I was like, there's a part of me that's like, this is an impossible summit. This isn't really possible for me. But it's like one foot in front of the other, man. Things can turn around, but you gotta be consistent. You have to commit. You have to really marry it on a deep fundamental level to be like, because there's gonna be like many enticing forces along the way, which are gonna try and draw you back into complacency, draw you back into comfort, draw you back into, like, that kiss of death, so to speak. But to say no each time, and to be like, no, I'm taking the authentic path. I'm committed to reclaiming my power. I'm committed to responsibility here, because I realize on a deep fundamental level that is the more fulfilling path. Things change, man. Things can change. Like, your life can change. It's like, I didn't think it was possible for me, but now I'm here on the other side telling you your life can change.
Yeah, amen to that. So that's powerful motivation. Like, you were told, you're like, it sounds like you're a bit like me. Like, when someone tells you can't do something, you're not going to succeed, you're like, well, I'll fucking show you.
Bro, like I mentioned, man, 29th degree Scorpio, bro. Fuck them all.
Yerasimos, I think you're going to say something, brother.
Well, when Joel was saying, I got the image of the end of the first Matrix where he just puts his hand up and he says no.
Yeah.
Like, what magic can happen just from that simple gesture in your own life, or those two letters. And I don't think you can underestimate it.
Yeah, no, that's right. I completely agree with all this. I want to talk about, because we did say something about money earlier, and Joel, I know you got a lot to say about it. One of the things that over the years, maybe more so since we used to do, a little freedom movement, Amy and I, very in the activist community, right? And some of the wackiest and most unintentionally funny emails that I've received have come from people who've had issues around money, particularly around me requesting an exchange of money in order for a service or a skill or whatever, whatever it is that I'm doing, right? So, but they're okay with, a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer being paid for their time and energy, but they're not okay for someone, I don't know, doing what I was doing, or maybe something spiritual, a spiritual service to receive in exchange for that. So I know you guys are aware that there's this messed up part of the psyche out there, because you get it occasionally too. What are your thoughts around this type of thing?
Money is the means of your survival. If you believe in freedom, if you believe that individuals have a right to life, and you have a negative perspective of money, then you have a negative image of your own life, of your own potential, of your own existence. Like, whether people like it or not, no matter how tarnished your idea of money is, it is the means of your survival in this existence right now. And this is why we make the argument that it's the root of all good. Because ultimately, there's no reason why it shouldn't be the driving motivation for you to create, right? The most innovative, technological, astounding achievements in humankind have come out of the desire to live, right? And this is what we're talking about. Everyone has the right to live. Everyone has the right to life. And that's exactly what money is. It's like, to me, it's insanity when I think about how people perceive money. And it's obviously no wonder that their life isn't in the ideal place of where they'd like it to be.
Yeah, it's
That's
usually
my opening statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually, I'll let you jump in, Yerasimos. Usually these sentiments come from people whose lives are a train wreck in some way, or their relationship to money in particular is a train wreck.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of religious programming around that too, and it's like even media programming, like
New age programming.
Like the people who have the most money are the villains, are the horrible people in stories. And at the most basic level, it's like, do you have the ability to know yourself, know what you value, to create something, to produce it and exchange it for value? Whether that's money or that's like for 15 loaves of bread or 17 fish, like it's still a value exchange. And I think that's at the foundation of freedom. And I think what's important for people moving forward is to know what they can create and produce and exchange.
Yeah, on the most primal level, we're all traders. That's what we are. We're just trading, right? And trading, it's today, part of that requires creating value. You can't. If you don't create value, there's nothing to trade. And it's like, I value my life. I value my existence. I value my potential. I value the kind of experience that my family has. So yes, I value money.
Yeah, and also like I have, you have rent to pay, you have bills to pay, you have all these things you need to do, and like because you've decided that like this is your life purpose and what you want to do, but someone has a right to all your information and what you provide for free. Like usually the people that want everything for free or that give you shit for charging for it are people that have a super low estimation of themselves.
Yeah.
That's a general thing.
I feel like there's a lot of truth in that, like, a lot of residual mummy and daddy issues, unresolved, that programming around self-esteem, for sure, it's got to play into it. It's because, when it's raised, right, the way that it's raised is never, ever in a healthy, like an emotionally healthy way. It's like a blame thing. It's like they're projecting shame onto you. Obviously, you're like outsourcing their own shame kind of thing. So you can tell from the way that it's done that it's not coming from a healthy, constructive place. It's people's shadow.
Yeah, and listen, I've had moments where I've seen someone, a coach or this or that, charging like hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars for something, and I have a part of me like, yo, but you know what? Fuck it. If they think that's what it's worth and people are willing to pay that, then do your thing. Like it's not on me. I'm going to be focused on doing what I got to do in my life. Yeah,
and ultimately, like the free market's going to decide whether they're worth that or not very, very quickly. But again, people lack an understanding of basic economics too. Like, let's be honest. And also, people lack a basic understanding of property rights. Like let's revert back to a hunter-gatherer scenario. If I go and, forage my own food and whatever, collect my own food, then all of a sudden someone comes and, wants to have a claim at, my food or my work or, my effort, then ultimately they're trying to make a claim on my life because this is the means of my survival. So without property rights, no other rights are possible. And I think this is a key misunderstanding as well.
Well, I mean, that's pretty timely with what's happening in Australia at the moment, this push with the voice and this referendum, you know, this kind of Trojan horse, you know, another feel-good la-di-da on the surface Trojan horse that's going to apparently, from the looks of it, basically rob everybody of every last meaningful right that they've got, both the original people and the rest of the country. So yes, worth considering. And the competence thing in general, I know, Joel, I've seen you make comments on this at least once about the general competence, and you know that relates into what you were just saying. I think, you know, every day I see an example that, and this might seem like I'm fixated, maybe obsessively. I'm not overly fixated, but I see it repeatedly. The competence issue of grown-ass adults not able to function as grown-ass adults. This seems to be a plague.
Oh yeah, it's huge, and for all sorts of reasons. I mean, again, all the media out there, everyone that wants to keep you small and living in a place of self-sabotage, it's all there. It's everywhere. It's in the media. You have to do so much work. You have to be a hero just to fucking fight against all the programming that is coming at you from every angle that wants you to be less than. They want you to, you know, you have adults that are acting like they're 12-year-olds, you know, and there's a reason for that. And so you have to take the reign in your life, and you got to be an adult. And what does that mean?
Yeah, just because someone looks like an adult doesn't mean psychologically they're an adult.
I mean, how many baby boomers, right? You know, that generation, 70-something years old, but psychologically still like 8 years old. I've seen so many examples of this.
But again, it's not a desire or even inspiration, or it's coming from families or schooling to do this kind of inner work. Like the inner work is a requirement, and if you don't have it, then you're going to be at the whims of all the programming. Like the programming in the last 10, 20, 30 years isn't the same as it was 50, 60, 70 years ago, you know? And so like people are getting absolutely bombarded. So if they're not at attention, if not being a warrior in their life, if they're not being the hero, if they're not like curious and seeking out alternative knowledge and just relying on what they're being fed in the mainstream, like there's not a lot of hope for you.
Yeah. And like the thing is, like the longer you put it off, the harder it becomes to get on the path, because the more pain that's going to be involved in the deconditioning process. And so I think, you know, the more that someone has pushed away, you know, this intuitive impulse to do this kind of work, the more inclined they're going to be to shut it out completely the further down the path they go.
Yeah. And there also needs to be this, like, I think because personal work and spirituality is getting very, very trendy, and it's gotten even more trendy, that like, again, I bring back to what I said before, that someone can think they did a single course, or not a single course, but like read a book, and then they have it all figured out. Like all their mom and dad wounds are all sorted out because, you know, they, you know, went to a 4-hour workshop for the day. And like, you have to be sincere. Like there has to be a sincerity in your desire to really know yourself and to deal with the shit that comes up, you know. And this isn't like, you've been on this process for a long time. All of us have, you know, like I have stuff that, like, just being in partnership with my wife, that brings up blind spots, you know, and it's like, oh, fuck that part of me. Why am I getting triggered and defensive on that? What is that? You know, and I've done a shit ton of fucking work. And so like, there's no end goal. Like, and I've said this multiple times before, like right now I'm 43 years old. When I'm like 120 and about to transition to wherever I go, I will have never experienced that before. Like I have not experienced aging as a 90-year-old right now. So like every level of life, every phase brings you new opportunity to discover things about yourself, to butt up against things, to realize things about yourself. So there isn't like, I am now enlightened, I am now awake, I got it figured out, check. Yeah, that's not life.
It's an ongoing process, man. Like it doesn't stop. You don't, you're right. There is no awake. Like we're all still dealing with stuff. We're still grappling with our challenges, and there's always new terrain to navigate, you know. But, you know, life doesn't get easier, but I think you can get better. You can get more competent. You can become more aware. You can become more conscious. But that's a choice that you have to make, you know.
And everything builds on everything else. You know what I mean? Like there are books that have changed my life. There is like a 3-month coaching program that changed my fucking life. You know what I mean? And so like, I think the goal has to be loving the journey, you know, not thinking that I'm going to arrive and get to this final place that is just it.
Yeah. But every day it's volitional. Like we're the only species with volitional consciousness. Like we have to make the choice, you know, like we're the only species that can act against our own self-interest. You know, like the animal's not going to think twice to kill. The plant's not going to think twice to grow. You know, us, we have to choose to be more conscious. We have to choose to act in our own self-interest.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Particularly because so much of our programming tells us not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wants to keep you passive, wants to keep you subdued, it wants to keep you acting against yourself so everyone else can have their way with you. And that works great for everyone else. It's a, yeah, awesome deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like that is a really great place to potentially wrap up, guys. But I do want to give you space to add any extra thoughts that are occurring to you, or recommendations. Obviously, I'm going to say again at the end, whenever the end moment arrives, just enjoying the journey here. But I'm going to recommend to people to go and check out your Rise Above the Herd group coaching for sure. Absolutely. And we're going to give them, well, I will say the link for that is brendanmurphy.global/rise, and I will put that with the show notes, so it'll be easy to find. But yeah, guys, any like kind of, you know, last thoughts, things you wanted to add that you didn't get a chance to? Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want people to get the sense through this conversation that, you know, this is something super heavy that you may potentially embark on, you know, but this is the catalyst for you to get on this path. Yeah, that's just the thing that came to mind, is like, I don't want people to think this is some huge burdensome thing that's going to require entire upheaval of their lives and everything needs to be thrown out the door. It's not that. What we're extending is an olive branch for you to become more conscious and make necessary shifts.
It's also fun. You get to hang out with me for 8 weeks, laugh, talk shit, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because with this comes joy as well, right? There's joy that's reclaimed in this process too. But like, absolutely, like, I mean, you know, it
is fun. It's fun. I think everything that's worthwhile is gonna, you know, be challenging. But I think if you can apply the right mindset and have some fun with it, like, I don't know, I consider personal development fun. Like, oh, discovering new things, challenging established belief systems, like realizing, oh man, that thing that I believed like for 10 years, fuck, I don't believe now. Whoa, that's crazy. That's cool. You know, what else is out there? You know, so it's like it lights up this curiosity in you to really be excited about life and to learn. And yeah, I would love anyone that's listening on this to come on this journey with us. I mean, you got Joel, myself, we have Sophie in there as well, who's been trained in so many different nervous system modalities. She's so amazing and lovely and adds the feminine component as well. So, yeah, I mean, all the information will be at the link that Brendan has for you. Yeah, other than that, I mean, I wish everyone nothing but the best in their lives. And if you feel the call, answer it.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, guys. Well, far out with all that said, you know, that was a lot of fun. And I think that the personal development stuff, when you have experienced guides and experienced mentors, you know, who've kind of already been through a lot of that stuff, you can make it a lot easier than it would otherwise be. Like, you're going to save people thousands of hours of trial and error, or throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. And shit, I'm mentally blanking. There was something else I wanted to add there. I've had that twice now this episode. Come on, Brandy.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I wish there was a program like this for me 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, the trials, the tribulations, the like tons of books, which I'm grateful for all of it. But like, the way I really believe that we have synthesized some foundational, important knowledge and information, integrating systems and modalities and philosophies that no one else is integrating, I think is what separates like what we do in a group coaching program. And so, and then at the end of the day, it's just like, do you resonate with Joel and myself? Do you think, hey, those are fucking two guys that I want to spend 8 weeks with? And if you do, let's do it.
Yeah, with my recommendation, I might add. So, all right, guys. Well, once again, I'll reiterate, if you want to look into that, ladies and gents, brendanmurphy.global/rise. I'll put the link in the notes. But in the meantime, I want to thank the co-hosts of the Here for the Truth podcast and the group coaching program, Rise Above the Herd, Joel, Graffiti, and Yerasimos, still Dionysus. And I always have to concentrate that a little bit extra hard.
I don't even use my last name anymore. It's just too much, but it's all good.
Oh, cool. So you're kind of like going in the Madonna one name wonder.
Sure. Why not? Who needs Bono when they have Yerasimos? No, but whatever. It's just easier that way.
Yeah, awesome, brother. Awesome, guys. Well, yeah, thanks again, and let's get people connected into your support network and your training. I think there's going to be huge value there for anyone who does it. And yeah, again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to have a chat today.
We appreciate you, man, so deeply. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, thanks to you, man, for what you do in the world, man. I mean, it's so cool to meet another brother that's aligned in so many ways. So much respect.
And just a quick note before we go, if you were considering joining Joel and Yerasimos inside Rise Above the Herd for their coaching program, they wanted me to let you know they are offering you a $150 discount off the paid in full price. So when you go to sign up at brendanmurphy.global/rise, make sure you check out using the code Brendan150. So I'll just repeat that. You can join Joel and Yerasimos via the link brendanmurphy.global/rise and then use the checkout code Brendan150 for the discount.